Hello everybody, and welcome back to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Case 5, Day 3, and the second day of trial overall. We are here at the courtroom lobby, and, well, it's been quite an eventful day of investigation yesterday. For one thing, we looked a little bit more into the evidence room at the police station, and we also got to talk to Mike Meekins, the hapless officer from the very first day, who's now being put under suspicion for the murder of Bruce Goodman, as he was also in the evidence room, along with someone that at least looked like Bruce Goodman. We don't know if it was actually him and that was who got murdered, or if it was someone else. So let's go ahead and continue onward and see what we got today. So, what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution is as confused as we are. Yeah, that was the other thing we did yesterday, is we also talked with Edgeworth, who also went into the evidence room, which is rather interesting, and who doesn't really seem to have any idea of what's going on. After all, the victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time, and a different suspect was arrested at each of the crime scenes. Lana! Good morning, Mr. Wright. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. I hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So, how'd it go? It's as Mr. Wright suspects. The police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, they wouldn't seek capital punishments. That's what I mean, Emma. But Lana, don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. I doubt that. I mean, if you were involved with the prosecution office parking lot thing, you at least need to know something about that, because Angel Starr has been bizarrely insistent that that's what she saw. I mean, of course we have all the reason in the world to doubt her, but usually when someone lies in these things, I feel like it's pretty obvious, and she was very insistent even after we found that she kind of fabricated some stuff. But she still insists that she saw Lana there, so I don't think Lana is as in the dark as she's claiming. Miss Skye. We found trace evidence of a certain person in the police department's evidence room. They belong to Officer Jake Marshall. Oh yeah, that was the last thing we noticed, was that we found his handprints on something that was wiped away, or at least not very visible, in the evidence room, in a locker with something sticking out of it. What kind of trace evidence? Blood-stained fingerprints, to be exact. Wait, was his handprint the blood-stained one? I thought it was just the one that wasn't, that we were having to look for. Oh wait, the blood-stained ones were on the same hand. We were just getting prints that didn't have blood on them. That's what we were trying to do. That's right. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? We have to play the cards we're dealt. Isn't that right, Miss Skye? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. She seems very apathetic about all this. It's kind of sad. But we haven't really uncovered the reason why. That's what I'm really curious about. Alright, let's begin. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is... I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. Well, at the very least, Edgeworth is a little more composed than he was yesterday. It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time. But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just disappeared. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. So here's my theory. I think Bruce Goodman was actually murdered in the evidence room before 5:15, and then he got transported via Mr. Edgeworth's car to the prosecutor's office. The question is how much Mr. Edgeworth knows about that. And so far he hasn't done anything to indicate that he does, so what I said may not even be possible, but it is rather weird that it was in his car and his knife was being used in a stabbing of some sort. But we still don't know the reason behind it. Like, that's where we're at a complete loss. Wow, this is one messed up trial. Okay, for some reason the game just froze there. One of my duties as prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In so doing, I believe the way in which we should proceed will reveal itself. Okay, you seem a lot more composed today. Now that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart. He sounds so on top of things, even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admirable trait? Hey, we do that all the time. Come on, Phoenix. Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the day to the stand. Alright. For its first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of the murder that occurred at the police department. The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer? Yes, Judge. That is, what we're talking about. Hoo boy. Things are getting wild from the get-go. You know, come to think of it, maybe so-called murderer might be a good description for Meekins. Will the witness please state his name and occupation?
Yes, sir. I'm Officer Mike Meekins, sir. My occupation is, that would be murderer, sir.
Well, that's it for this trial. Game over. He confessed.
So you're telling us you're a professional killer? Sir, it was me, sir. I'm the one who did it. I'll never kill anyone again, sir. You've got to believe me, sir. Actually, what we'd like to hear from you is... Sir, I'm what you would call a part of the younger generation, sir. A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend. Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir. Help me, sir.
Uh-oh. Meekins is rubbing off on someone else now. Officer Meekins.
Yes, sir.
Give us your report of the crime. Consider that in order.
Yes, sir. As you wish, sir. After all, I'm a part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir.
I feel like the people who made this game had very low opinions of the younger generation. You can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm.
Crime report, sir. Although it's not my normal duty, I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day.
That's rather interesting.
I spotted a suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life. Then I did it. After that, I passed out until another officer smacked me awake.
Okay, when you say you did it, I'm really curious to know what exactly that means.
So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you? Do unto others before they do unto you. That's the Meekins family motto, sir. I see. Then you fainted, and a colleague helped you regain consciousness. Yes, sir. He knocked me upside the head, sir. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination.
What I need here is more info to work with. Yeah, that was pretty vague. And it didn't really give us much more than what we had already heard. I'm kind of curious about this. I'm going to press this. Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not?
Yes, sir. I'm in charge of hiring new recruits, sir.
Oh, that's a scary position for this guy to be in. Yikes. Now, there's a scary thought. Yeah, exactly. Evidence transferal was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed.
I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir.
The Blue Badger?
Yes, sir. The lovely police mascot created by the Chief of Detectives, sir.
Well, that's right, Gumshoe was working on him in the evidence room.
I was to ensure it wasn't broken during the transferal process.
If I remember this case correctly, and I have very vague memories here, but I think this is the day in court when we are going to hear this song a lot.
That's my sole mission for the day, sir. I see. Sounds like a very, important mission. After the award ceremony that finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room. Tell us, what did you see when you got there?
Okay, so did he see this on the security screen that was in Marshall's area? And Marshall was not there? That's rather interesting. In order to enter the evidence room, you need an ID card, am I correct?
Precisely, sir. I have one right here around my neck.
So then, your ID number should be listed on here, right? Oh yeah, we don't know his ID number yet.
There it is! I found it! This is the one right here. Could you please read us the number? Yes, sir. It's 4989596. That's my number, sir.
I see, huh. But the number 4989596 is shown as being used twice. Yeah, we were wondering about that number yesterday and why it was shown at 450 and 514. So what exactly happened to warrant it being used twice? Please explain, witness.
It's no real mystery, sir. The first time is when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. And the second time is when I went to go get him after everything settled down. I see. So it was during that second time when...
Well, did everything settle down necessarily? Because the second time was 5:14, so that's 1 minute before this murder apparently happened.
Yes, sir. That was when I spotted the man on the security screen.
Data added to ID card record. Alright. I'm just pressing everything at this point. So you were attacked. Can you please tell us exactly what happened to you?
It was a knife, sir! A knife!
Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you? What happened then?
Well, with me charging in on him like that, he looked as surprised as I was.
You aren't exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into.
That's when I reacted, sir. I swung my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him. That's how I got this gash on my hand.
Maybe if you just kept your cool, your hand wouldn't be...
When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the man by his collar.
Alright. I'm curious to know what he means by I did it. What exactly do you mean when you say you did it?
I know I don't look the type, but I'm really into kung fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him.
You took his knife?
I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. I made sure to close my eyes like a man.
I'm not sure what closing your eyes has to do with being a man, but okay. I see. He must have been desperate. Also, wait a minute. How is performing a disarming maneuver equivalent to killing him with the knife? That doesn't really track.
The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of my blood. And then, the next thing I knew... Yes? He punched me right in my face, sir!
Alright. About what time did you regain consciousness?
No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious.
You could have just looked at your watch when you woke up? Oh, right. According to the report from the officer that woke up the witness, it was about 5:30.
He hit me right in the head, too. I woke up crying tears of pain. That's nice. It's nice that you recovered, that is. When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir.
Your mission?
Yes, sir. The Blue Badger, sir. I returned him to the entrance before things got out of hand.
Well, we can all rest easy now.
I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. Only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point.
Yes, Officer Meekins? With regard to that, sir, take a look at this! It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning, sir.
The chief delivered it?
What is that? A videotape?
Yeah, a VHS tape.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right, sir. A videotape, sir. It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room.
What? But I specifically asked if there was such a tape, and was told it had been mistakenly erased. Yeah, I do recall that. That was something we heard about yesterday, right?
That's quite a mistake. I just do what I'm told, sir. It's the only thing I'm really good at.
Yeah, I can see that. Looks like communication with the police department is as good as ever.
Well then, let's have a look. Show us a video of you murdering the victim. Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me.
A video of a real murder? Just what are we getting ourselves into? Alright, yes, this is what I thought it was. We are going to be seeing this video a lot. So the camera is swiveling around. Alright, it's oscillating back to the left. Nothing weird yet. Oh, there's Detective Goodman. Walking over to that side of the room. And we can't really see his face. Something fell out of that locker, though. I noticed that. And there's Meekins coming up. Oh, it is at 5:14. Okay. Well, and it cut away just when things were getting good. Oh, now it's 5:15. And now Meekins is on the floor. And the locker's open. Which is pretty much the state it was in before. Or, sorry, before meeting in the present.
Wow, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us?
What the hell was that wriggling piece of plywood?
Sir, that is the pride and joy of the entire Criminal Affairs Department, sir. It's the Blue Badger, sir.
Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly? Yeah, that didn't really tell us that much. Security video added to the court record.
Yes, well anyway, this tape seems to prove that the witness did indeed encounter, someone in the evidence room. And some sort of, activity did take place.
Your Honor, instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that alright with you, Officer Meekins?
Yes, sir. As you wish, sir.
Mystery Man.
His face can't be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman, sir. I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it.
What's this about a fingerprint? Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to.
Intriguing. That would mean the victim at the crime scene would have had to have been Detective Goodman. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination.
I don't know where this cross-examination will lead, but everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. Alright, I think I already know what the contradiction here is. And it has to do with the fact that there was something in that locker that fell out, which suggests that it could have been, I want to say, we look, let me look at this real quick. Wow, we have a lot here. Let's try presenting this here. Actually, let me present it on a different statement. I'm going to present it on this one. Okay, good. We're on the right track at least. Regarding the video contained on this tape, there is one thing in particular that seems rather strange. Strange? This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman.
What? This video contains such a contradiction?
Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal.
Yes, Mr. Edgeworth.
I propose we have the defense point out to us this alleged contradiction in the video. He would want me to point it out.
Very well, proposal accepted. Let us further inspect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Mr. Wright, please show us this contradiction you speak of.
I have to point out a problem in the video? This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You can do it, Mr. Wright! It's set up so you can fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing.
Please don't play it too many times. I can't stand watching this video.
How did this guy ever become a police officer?
Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man may not have been Detective Goodman?
Alright, I'm gonna watch the whole thing again, just because I want to look at something there. Okay, so there's... Okay, right there, we didn't see the thing sticking out of that locker, which is really interesting. Okay, hang on, let me rewind it. Okay, let's click on that. The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this.
Yes, it is strange. Something certainly seems unnatural about that.
Uh-oh. I'm not liking the way how ambiguous this sounds.
What could it mean?
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Wright, but you seem to have forgotten the point of this exercise. The point? What you are looking for is one thing and one thing only. Something that indicates the man may not be Detective Goodman. Oh yeah. Okay. Never mind. Oh, well, good. I didn't get penalized. That's good. Okay. Unless we have to point out that there's a cloth sticking out of the locker after the fact here. And... Oh, wait, I see what it is. I see what it is. Hang on. Rewind. Pause. It's the light. Because the light's on. The thing that's strange... Officer B... Okay, here we go. Officer... Sir! Do you mean me, sir? As I understand it, the locker apparatus works like this. When you grab the handle, a sensor reads your fingerprint. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released.
According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir.
If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. And they're making us watch pretty much all of this here. Convenient that the flag is blocking his face. When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker, let's rewind to a little earlier. Oh, we're gonna rewind at normal speed. I get that the game developers were really proud of like their full, you know, animated video here. Here, notice the light?
What's this? It's already lit.
Precisely my point, Your Honor. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle.
Ah!
Are you handcuffing yourself, Meekins?
Order, order! What's the meaning of this?
It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When a door is shut, a sensor is triggered. and the locker is automatically locked.
Oh, I know. It must have broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this.
That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction.
Oh well, it just goes to show, novices should keep their mouths shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation?
Me, Your Honor?
Yes, why wasn't the locker locked?
Me, Your Honor? Oh, maybe this is where we have to point out the glove. Yes, well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator?
Huh?
Oh, maybe something like jammed the system sensor? Something jammed the sensor? Say, there's something else that seems out of place in this video. Yeah, I thought so too. Emma's still reading her thoughts. There's got to be another clue somewhere in this footage.
Very well, let's inspect the video once more. The locker wasn't locked. Mr. Wright, please point out the cause for this.
Okay, I think we know what it is. We'll just fast forward. Okay, how do we rewind? J. And we'll click on that. Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. Oh, there's no music this time.
What's this? Something white fell out of the locker.
But sir, it's been my experience that things fall out when doors are opened. I often fall out and roll to great distances when I open my car door, sir.
Meekins, I don't even want to ask. We can't be sure that item was completely inside the locker to begin with.
What do you mean?
The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted, say, between the sensor and the door?
Inserted?
Bum 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 bum.
This white thing that wasn't inside the locker, it was stuck between the door and the sensor.
Oh, I understand now, sir. It's just like my tie. 2 out of 3 times it gets stuck in the door when I get out of my patrol vehicle, sir. Instead of the door closing, my tie chokes me.
But the object would have to be extremely thin to fit in the door.
Not only that, it would also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator.
Yes, an insulator. But at the crime scene,
there just might have been something that fits the description.
But, sir,
by insulator, you don't mean...
I think I've finally got this figured out.
Very well. Will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was this insulator that was stuck in the locker door?
I am going to assume it is this. I found this near the locker, a thin rubber glove.
We can't be sure that was in the victim's locker.
It has a tag that says SL9 incident. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker, but that isn't the case. The lit lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is this not so, Officer Meekins?
Sir, it would appear so, sir.
That squeaky sound effect when he does that handcuff thing is so funny.
Order, order, order! So are we to believe then that the victim, whom this witness stabbed in the evidence room, was not Detective Goodman?
Do not be misled, Your Honor.
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
The defense has merely demonstrated that possibility, and nothing more. The victim in the video was indeed Bruce Goodman. The prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins, please testify about this.
Sir, me, sir. I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir.
Okay, that seems a little suspicious. Is this a joke?
Very well. Begin your testimony.
Alright, Mystery Man 2. Electric Boogaloo.
There's one other thing that proves the man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used his card.
An ID card record. I see.
I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. Well, he did enter the room. Or at least someone used his ID to enter the room. The ID used at 514 is that of the victim.
Just before the crime, Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for transferal. Why were there so few people using this room?
This particular evidence room is only for storing certain special cases. Special cases? Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although it doesn't make much of a difference. Yeah, especially with your spiky hair. There were only a few cases up for transferal there, and most were cleared up by noon.
Right, I see. Now let us move on to the cross-examination.
Okay, I'm not sure what we have to contradict this exactly. I'm just gonna press everything here. So unlike your earlier testimony, you believe this to be rock solid, do you?
Yes, sir. Solid as stone, sir. And my hand wasn't wrapped in bandages. I'd even give the V for victory sign, sir.
Couldn't he just use his right hand for that?
Let's hear him out fully. As we've seen, one never knows what he might say until the very last second.
Is that card hanging from your neck one of those ID cards?
Yes, sir. This card right next to my cuff, sir. I keep it here so I won't ever forget it.
But what if someone were to steal it from you, keeping it out in the open like that?
Maybe I shouldn't wear it around my neck. Remember when I said 2 out of 3 times my tie gets stuck when I get out of my car? Well, the remaining time, it's my ID card that gets stuck. Instead of the door closing, my ID card chokes me.
Maybe I should just leave this one alone. At any rate, each police officer has only one ID card. Both the police department and the prosecutor's office can attest to this.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Wait, okay. I'm wondering if we have something... Unless we're supposed to present this, since the the court record does list that it was found at the prosecutor's office crime scene, and we know that that crime took place at the same time. I'm just checking all these things here. Okay. Let's try... I'm going to try presenting the card here. Yes! Okay, good. Wait one moment, Officer Meekins.
I'm not good at waiting, sir.
I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene.
That makes sense.
When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card.
A lost item report? It's only half completed.
But it shows that Detective Goodman had lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess, you believe this something to be his ID card, right? I wonder if we would have gotten that if we presented the lost item report there as well. I can't say for sure, but there is a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card.
Order! Order! So now, what does this all mean?
It can only mean one thing.
it doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card.
Order! 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 Does the prosecution have a response?
I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. But bravo. Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes. What's he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. That is... well, I guess that's right. Oh, I see where he's going. He's basically saying that we've kind of sealed our own grave because we're now saying that it had to have happened at the prosecution office parking lot. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well. Well, well. It seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove.
Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth.
The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means a murder did not take place at the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime.
So
the real crime could only take place at one location, the underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. The murderer being Miss Lana Skye, the defendant. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. Or, the murder could have still happened elsewhere, but maybe it wasn't either location, and it wasn't 5:15. Like, that's possible, right? Ah! I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning.
the activity in the evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered, and where did this person disappear to?
Yeah, it seems to be a little strange that someone would go to such lengths to disguise themselves as Goodman and have a murder take place around the exact supposed time of the real murder. Or at the very least, it looked like a murder here at the evidence room. I don't think Meekins actually killed anyone. That seems to be a little bit outside what he would be capable of doing.
However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman.
Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something, or else Lana... What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this mess? Well, let's object. One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. Yep, there's that cloth sticking out of there. That wasn't there earlier. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. My point exactly. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter.
Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, Your Honor?
If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared? I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean? Your Honor, the defense would like to request a specific witness. Oh? Who do you have in mind? Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply. Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person whom you would have testify, what is his or her name? I like how we had all this hint stuff at Texas Ranger, and we can still pick here. Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? I can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare. Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time? We will, Your Honor. Court is now in recess. Yeah, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of what's going on with that locker, because that was the locker that we found his handprint on. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you've figured everything out. I haven't figured anything out. You definitely know more than what you're letting on, Lana, and I think this would be a whole lot easier if you just told us what it is you know. Lana? You're the one who knows everything. Emma. You always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Exactly. Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Well, kind of bad timing. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it all off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Sorry, Detective. You better be, pal. Hey! 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 I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky. That's okay. So, have you brought what I asked? Oh. Oh-ho! Oh-ho-ho! 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 You mean this, right? My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. The SL9 incident? But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Oh good, she's actually helping us. That's nice. Here, you might do well to read them. I can't believe you, the Chief Prosecutor, were a witness in that case. Really now? That's rather interesting news. Miss Sky was a witness? SL9 incident files. Files for the Joe Dark killings solved 2 years ago. Okay, so that's what that was called. We don't exactly know what happened or who did it, so I guess it's someone named Joe Dark. Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murders. Oh what, now that I brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me? Emma, but why is your name in here? What? My name's in there? I don't know, unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SL9 incident, is that... That's the classification number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dark killings. Or Dark-A. The Joe Dark? No! No, Lana! That's over with! No! Emma, wait! She ran away.
You know what? I just remembered I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here.
Bye! Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you, you might just be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. I better take a good look at this file. To be continued. Alright. Well, that's going to wrap up today's video, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed it. I really had fun with this trial segment, despite having to watch the video a bunch of times. And next time, we're going to take on Day 3 Trial Ladder. So until then, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a comment, like, or subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. So take